Presented by the Making Star Wars Podcasting Network. This is the Cantina Cast, your watering hole for thought-provoking Star Wars discussion, character dissections, quote and scene analysis, honest opinions on the Star Wars news that interests you, and whatever else these guys come up with. Here are your hosts, Mike and Joao.
I just had a panic attack because my screens just flashed here. So, well, that was scary for a moment, Joe. Anyway, welcome to 192. This is the Mace Windu Character Dissection and the Praetorian Guards. I think I said that right. Oh my God, I'm tongue-tied already, and we're not even a second into the episode.
In there, Mike, I put that.
I know. You even
it out, but that Praetorian. Yes.
Yes, I got it, but I got
like
nervous
I knew
with
exactly.
this.
I was like kind of. So I went to one of those websites that like and you can listen and they pronounce it for you. So like,
I've done that before. Well, here's the thing: you got the Praetorian Guard, and then you got the Patreon thing, which we're going to plug right now. And I want to thank those that have come over and subscribed to us. We appreciate that. And we did release a sample of episode 1 of Cantina After Dark, or CAD as we like to call it. We know it's not for everybody, but, in case you guys are wondering what we're referencing when we're on the show, at least you guys have an idea. And if it entices you a little bit to come over, pay the $2 and we'd appreciate it. And hopefully you guys get entertained by it. So go over to our Patreon, which I think you can just look us up. But if you can't look us up, there'll be a link in the description of this episode. So with that, we should mention our Discord channel, Joe, which is pretty exciting lately because we've had quite a bit of, I want to say, good debate going on back and forth with all sorts of theories and ideas and what this could be and what that could be. It was really nice, especially when we got into things that were leaked and everything, and we were having a great discussion over there. So I highly recommend everyone to go over to our Discord channel. And again, there'll be a link in our show description. And of course, I think it's on our Facebook page somewhere. There's a link. And I think you can just look us up, the Cantina Cast, and it'll show up, right, Joe?
I guess you can't actually search on Discord. So, yeah. So it seems to be a huge missing function. But I guess it's also because they just don't want people jumping into people's chats that they don't want other different people in their chats. So I don't really know how it works. But anyway, I have pinned it to the top of our Facebook page. So if you just go to the facebook.com/the Cantina Cast, you can click that pinned thing. It should be the first thing you really see. And then go to the Discord, and then you might have to download it, this, that, or the other, but it's free and all that. Come in and chat with us. There's been a lot of lively debate, as Mike was saying. It's been a lot of fun, so I want to give a shout out to all the guys in there. You know who you are. And it's just been a whole lot of fun to kind of be able to just jump in there at any point in the day, and you have like a, kind of a safe environment Star Wars place where, now it doesn't mean we don't disagree sometimes, but we don't argue about it, I guess you could say. So it's a nice, safe area, and for the most part, we just have a lot of fun and we goof around a little bit here and there, but just talking Star Wars, and that's what it's about.
And I just wanted to say a quick shout out to my friend Courtney, who sent me a message the other day that she was looking through podcasts on iTunes, and she remembered that I had one, and she actually subscribed. So I thank Courtney for that. And that was pretty cool that someone I actually know decided to subscribe to the show, because I don't think I know too many people that subscribe to the show personally. I don't know. But anyway, just wanted to say thank you to her. And guys, if you can, word of mouth is always the best for us, and we appreciate it if you guys would do that. So, but Joe has got a little bit of an announcement, because this was his little brainchild. And, when Joe gets thinking, he kind of snowballs things. So I'll tell you about, Joe, tell him what you got planned for The Last Jedi, going to The Last Jedi.
So when we got about 50 days before The Last Jedi, which is somewhere like in late October, we expect to have the trailer right about in that area. And then we've got another big episode coming up. I will give you guys 3 guesses to who it pertains to, but you're probably only going to need 1 guess, knowing us. But anyway, so that episode will be coming, and that's going to kind of be the kickoff to this. And I'm calling it 100 Days of The Last Jedi. And I don't know, you watch that the ABC Family or whatever it used to be called, or what it used to be called that. And they would do like the 25 days of Christmas. And of course you have the 12 days of Christmas with the song. And it kind of felt like a seasonal thing to me. And I thought it was a good way to kind of, to be honest, to market the podcast. And because, we're going to be doing a whole lot of hype episodes going in to The Last Jedi. And then obviously you guys know we're going to come out with a ton of content in the weeks that follow, whether it's review show number 1, 2, 3, listener feedback review show of The Last Jedi, all the character breakdowns from Rey to Kylo to Leia to Luke, Poe and Finn, and whoever else catches our Snoke, whoever catches our imagination. So it's all going to be leading up to basically from the end of October to about the end of January, beginning of February. It's roughly 100 days of us just the podcast being completely focused on this event, which is The Last Jedi. And we're going to be promoting it that way. And we hope you guys will join in with with the hashtag 100 days of The Last Jedi and stuff when you see us posting stuff on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, blah, 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 blah. But so that's my idea. It's really nothing that we weren't going to do anyway. It's just a different way for us to kind of get more word of mouth out there and to get noticed, and hopefully more people getting excited about The Last Jedi and joining us in that excitement for The Last Jedi. And we might do some extra little special stuff maybe on YouTube or some bonus shows on the podcast as well to go along with all this too. So we'll try to make it as special as we can, but yep, that's basically it. So I'm looking forward to, obviously the trailer coming out and then everything
pre-sale tickets
from there.
Yeah,
so.
It'll be a crazy time. I can tell you that. I mean, it's just going to be over before we even know it. That's the sad part. It's just going to be over with, and we'll be like, wow. Did that just happen?
I feel like these weeks are just flying by now, Mike, and now we're looking at, by the time you guys, most of you are listening to this episode, if you're listening to it when we release it to the masses, it's going to be just about 4 months until the movie releases, and that's crazy to think about that we're already, it seemed like it took forever to get to The Force Awakens, and now The Last Jedi is just right around the corner now, and so the excitement is palpable in the air. You can smell it here at the Cantina Cast and at our Discord and everywhere else and on the internet. And so it's just going to even become even a bigger thing. So it's exciting times. It's not quite the same as The Force Awakens, Mike, but I got a feeling it's going to be close. It's close for me just because there's so many questions I want answered and everybody wants answered. So it's still monumental.
Oh, yeah, because we were left with, okay, now what? At the end of The Force Awakens with Luke, Rey, Kylo, Snoke, that we have all these questions that need to be answered, and think that we're going to have maybe some answers. I don't think we're getting all of them, but we're going to get a better idea at least. But in any case, let's get into the Praetorian Guards here, which goes back to ancient times in Rome, which is no surprise because when you see the Last Jedi in the early days, the first thing that I thought of was those Roman guys there with the hat and all that stuff. And of course, you see that in the prequel trilogy. You see them in blue and everything, and then of course they changed to red as they got to the Revenge of the Sith and everything. So, but I never really got into the history of it. I just knew it came from ancient Rome. But I'll throw it to you, Joe, because we had a bit of a chat in the Discord channel, and it kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah, and we haven't been able to talk about these guys really because they've kind of been more spoiler-y, and, we've kind of known about them for a minute, but until some of these toy stuff, like they should have shown the toys off, so that was kind of my cue, like, okay, this week now we can talk about it because it seems like the information is out there. This isn't spoiler stuff anymore. Like, people have seen this stuff on merchandise, so we know what they are. So, yeah, I mean, the Imperial Praetorian Guards, were, like a real thing back in Imperial Roman army, and they used to protect, among other things, like things would change over time and like what they were supposed to be doing. But, one of the things that they did was protect the Emperor. And so obviously Snoke is not an Emperor, but if you read about these guys in The Last Jedi, they kind of go with Snoke and they make sure that he is protected. So it's just kind of interesting. It's just a direct direct reference to basically history here. And, Star Wars does that obviously, Mike, we've had stormtroopers before, and we there's all kinds of links to the past when you talk about Star Wars, and it's not always mythology or this or that or made up stuff. A lot of it's just really tied to our own history as human beings, and it's just kind of recycling those ideas and making it into something new. And how we always say that Star Wars does that. It just kind of changes and goes about and recycles itself to present its message in a new time where, you need a new way of looking at things because, times change and people look at things differently. So here we go. And that's basically it. I read through and I kind of was reading. There wasn't anything that I found like too fascinating about these guys, except for they just seemed to, it was a job and they could be elevated to this position. And so it kind of just made me wonder, like in the last Jedi in Star Wars with these guys, is it kind of the same way? Obviously you'd have to be an elite fighter to be one of these Praetorian Guards for Snoke. He's not just going to put anybody around them. So I guess it goes without saying, but my question here is that let's face it, they use a lot of weird weapons, and they kind of remind me of the stuff that the Knights of Ren were holding. So my question is this an evolution of the idea of the Knights of Ren in a way? Or did the Knights of Ren get promoted? or like what's going on here? Because you were saying the other night you thought they were just going to do away with the Knights of Ren and not really ever go into it.
Well, because I think in my mind, when Snoke is talking to Kylo, even you, a Knight of Ren, in my mind, it's almost like either the Knights of Ren are done and Kylo kind of wiped them out, which wouldn't be unheard of because when you look at that picture, and looking at what the image you have here of the Praetorian Guards here is the fact that they have like knives and swords and stuff, and Kylo's got a lightsaber which would go right through that in a heartbeat. In my mind, I could be wrong. The only lightsabers around is really Kylo, and until Rey showed up with the old saber, that's about it. Like they don't know where Luke is, but for the majority of the galaxy, nobody's whipping around with a lightsaber. So these sword ideas of the staff, maybe that's not a bad thing. That I find that interesting that they have the swords and the staff and the meat cleaver type thing. Like I sent an image the other day in the Discord channel. I'm like, is this guy remember the big guy when we were talking about the Knights of Ren and you like the guy with the big cleaver in the back there and you like, I want to cosplay him or whatever. And I thought of that guy. I'm like, well, could this be an evolution of them? And that's maybe, possibly. I'm not sure why you would change from Knight of Ren to a Praetorian Guard like that, or is it separate? In my mind, from the sizzle reel, it looks like Kylo actually fights these guys. Like it seems like that's what happens. I don't know. To be honest, I don't even know what I think of their look.
Maybe, yeah, but he's obviously deflecting stuff with that lightsaber too, and it's multiple people, and then we see Rey doing the same thing. So, like these weapons must be able to withstand a lightsaber, I guess. Like
I would think. It's almost like the guards, the Magna guards that
well, they had that, and I go in, Knights of the Old Republic. You have those swords, and the lore behind it is that the metal or whatever could withstand, and you could actually battle a lightsaber with them. Now, whether they're going to go to that length or these swords are somehow these knives and swords and staves, if they're charged with some kind of electricity to be able to deflect the lightsaber. Maybe they're going that route, like how we've seen in the prequels before. I don't know. You could go either way. Maybe you bring in some of that old lore from Knights of the Old Republic, and maybe you make that canon. I don't know.
Well, we haven't even heard anything about the Knights of Ren at all. We haven't heard anything mentioned at all. We did hear earlier on there was rumors, but I'm not going to get into that here. We'll save that for the spoiler show, I guess. The bonus episode. But
which you should have already heard.
I don't know
at this point. We haven't recorded it yet, but it came out before this. Weird how that works.
Now I don't know how I like their look, to be honest. It seems it doesn't seem very Star Wars to me. Other than it's like the Royal Guard, the red, but it just doesn't seem very Star Wars to me. I don't know. Like they all have different variations in the helmet. their weaponry. So it's like, okay, they are the Knights of Ren. They're just different now. They just evolved into this type of stuff. And we were assuming back when we did the episode on the Knights of Ren that, all right, the Knights of Ren are really basically his elite troops, really. Snoke's elite troops, right? That's kind of what we thought that would be. And now here we are changing things. So I don't know. I don't know. That like the helmets are weird. It looks a little weird to me. I don't know. It doesn't. It's not like the Shore Trooper. It doesn't call to me. But go ahead.
I don't know that it doesn't look Star Wars to me. I think that it just feels like it's a mix of like a stormtrooper evolved into some kind of dark side Sith Force user person. Now, I don't know if these guys can use the Force or not, but you get where I'm going with it. It's like a combination of a stormtrooper and a Royal Red Guard or something. It looks like that's where they were going with it, in my opinion, but they've given, by making each one have different weaponry and helmets, it's like they're giving them their own unique identity in a way, instead of every stormtrooper kind of looking the same. This one's got a yellow shoulder pad or an orange shoulder pad or something like that, or, where it's, but most of the stormtroopers look identical except for, every so one. But this one, with these guys, the Praetorians, they're giving them unique individual characteristics and identities, even though they're wearing masks and they're covered up. So, I mean, we'll see how it goes. I mean, how will these guys come up on screen as far as characters? Will we hear them talk, or are they going to just kind of be more like machine than
silent
machine
assassin
than man or something, just like where they're just kind of, not saying that they're not alive. I'm not claiming that they're some kind of a droid, because they're not.
Maybe like the Death Troopers,
if they're just, they just they're just going through the motions. They do what they got to do. And will they have a lot of personality or not? I don't know.
I don't get that indication. I think Snoke, in my mind, and I don't know why I'm hopping on this, is I think Kylo turns on the First Order and he fights these guys and he turns his back on Snoke. I don't know. That's just my thinking. I don't know why I keep saying this. Like in Discord, I was going on and on with everybody, and people were like, well, blah, blah, blah. We went back and forth and stuff like that. So, I mean, they're interesting. I just don't know how much I'm going to really be into. I don't know. I mean, are they like the new baddies that we're just going to take out, like the Death Troopers, just to sell more toys or something? I don't know. I don't know what it is, but we'll see. We'll see what it's going to be looking like. I mean, they seem to be pushing them on the toys and everything. So apparently they're at least going to be on the toys, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, let's get into our main topic here, which is Mace Windu, which I got to say, Joe, the last dissection was R2, and now we're doing basically Mace Windu, like a mini dissection Mace Windu here. I didn't think we would ever do this character at all, but the listeners demanded it just like R2, so we're doing that, and we're going to give it our best shot with Mace. I mean, I'm not sure where we're going to go with Mace, so this will be interesting. So, Joe, let's go. Let's start from him in the beginning. I'll throw it right to you. What are your thoughts on Mace, and we'll go from there.
I think the overall idea on Mace, before we get into like episode 1, but I feel like the overall, and I don't want to speak for everybody or anything like that, but I've always got this is my sense and my sensibility of it. And I also feel a lot of other people, I'm not going to say majority, but a lot of people might agree with this, is that, and I've heard other people say it, is that Mace has always kind of seemed like that Jedi who was on the verge of the dark side, because he used that aggression when he would fight, but he was able to keep it in check. And of course, that's where the lightsaber form Vapad came from. Now, I don't know if this is canon anymore, but for this, Mace Windu, it was in the novelization of Revenge of the Sith. I believe that he actually invented this lightsaber form. So I'm going to go ahead and say that it's more or less canon at this point. So, because there used to be 7 forms of the lightsaber. I don't know if any of that's still canon, to be honest. But anyway, so it's known for the aggressiveness, and he was the only Jedi who could use this. And he was the only one who used this aggressive style, where he is kind of more like a balanced figure, where he's able to use dark, but he's able to use his light to keep it in check so he doesn't go overboard. Now we'll get to the point where he kind of does go overboard, later on.
Well,
but I feel like this is the overall thing, is people have always seen Mace as this guy who he has some dark tendencies to him, but he's almost like I guess you could compare him to Kylo a little bit. He has the dark and the light in him.
Well, I was going to point out that it's funny that I said this before on an episode. I can't remember what it was. It was early on, I think, or maybe in 2015 or something. I can't remember, but you can go back and find it, I'm sure. Is where I always said, why did Palpatine go after Anakin when he could have just had Mace Windu in a way? Because Mace was he was like right there, like Count Dooku wise. Like, why go after Count Dooku who was supposedly the greatest, lightsaber fighter of all time and all that stuff? But why didn't he just go after Mace Windu? Maybe he couldn't break him. I don't know. That'd be an interesting backstory where
there's no way Palpatine could. Mace Windu would spit in his face. He was no way. I don't think he would trick Mace Windu. I just don't see that. But he's
no. But the way I'm seeing it is like, all right, Mace is very powerful and he's borderline on. He could tip, is what I'm saying, and maybe Palpatine, being the way he is, could have just pushed the button a little bit and he could have got him to turn. I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, I don't think that's possible because I think Mace enjoyed his comfortable position.
I think Mace is in a way too strong-willed. Like, he's not going to listen to somebody like that. Like, even I think with Yoda, he respects Yoda, but at the end of the day, I think he's also has Yoda's ear. So I don't think that he necessarily feels like Yoda's telling him what to do. If Palpatine, I think a guy like Palpatine, like, he would have no respect for somebody like Palpatine, like in any way, shape, or form.
Well, speaking of that, I don't think he did actually. Like, I don't think he trusted politicians, so to speak. Let's jump into episode 1. I guess we should get into that and his attitude and as we'd mentioned before with Qui-Gon. When we come before the Jedi Council and we see Mace, as we said, I think in the Qui-Gon dissection, we said, all right, he's kind of just dismisses this crazy hermit or this crazy hippie with his wild ideas of the chosen one and this, that, and he finds this virgin in the Force, and Mace is like, whatever, dude, just come on. We don't have time for this. We got, there's a Sith Lord that just came about, and he's got that passive attitude like, yeah, all right, whatever. We got other matters to handle here. So what are your thoughts initially when we first kind of meet Mace here at the council, or at least at this moment where it was rather key, because then he meets Anakin as well?
Oh yeah, I mean his attitude is very, I don't want anything to do with this. This is cumbersome to me. This is unorthodox. This is not what we do here. And I think he's seen Qui-Gon's. We talked about this in the Qui-Gon dissection a few episodes ago, so make sure you go back and listen to that. But I think he is tired of Qui-Gon's games because it's referenced by Obi-Wan that this isn't the first time Qui-Gon has kind of bent the rules and went against the council and did things. And, I think Mace is a little tired of the act. And, I don't think it takes much to, annoy Mace, but I think he is tired of Qui-Gon's act here. And he just kind of, when he finally convinces Anakin to be tested, and Mace kind of looks and they're like, and Yoda gives him that look like, okay, yeah, bring him in. And then, Mace is like, he rolls his eyes and kind of waves his hand and he is like, bring him in then. And he's just very, not reserved about it. He just doesn't want anything to do with any of it, but he goes along with it because, Yoda says, okay, we'll do it. And he just doesn't, it just doesn't interest him. And you can just tell he's probably just bored at those council meetings, I guess.
Well, like you said, he's done this one too many times with Qui-Gon with his wild ideas, I bet. Like Qui-Gon just coming, hey, I found this and blah, blah, blah. I went to the Wills and they taught me a few other things. Like, yeah, whatever, dude. Come on. I mean, come on. Lay off the peyote, that type of stuff. So I don't know. Does he, at this point, is he a jerk, or is he actually right in his thinking, or is he an example of how ignorant the Jedi Council is in the upcoming films here? Like at this point, going forward, obviously, this is what happened. They were kind of, is in a way, Yoda seemed to be more flexible, like whereas Mace was maybe more of the head of the table, so to speak, and had everyone else's ears. Like they all saw, they respected Yoda, but Yoda was kind of like, all right, he's old. He's just, whatever. We'll make the decisions, but he's there. Every now and then he'll chime in or whatever. But at this point, I would have to say at this point in episode 1, when it comes to like Anakin and that, Yoda does shoot him that eye, and Mace kind of defers at that point to Yoda. So at this point, it's like Yoda has more clout, I guess, or pull in the council. So they kind of, or maybe not, because as we discussed in the Yoda episode, the dissection of Yoda, which you guys should all go check out, that he really kind of didn't get his way either because he didn't want Anakin to be trained. But anyway, we'll move on to that. So what are your thoughts, Joe, on Mace's? Does he come off? Is he right? Is he wrong? Is he a jerk? Is he just a symbol of how ignorant the Jedi Council is going to be going forward?
Well, I think Adam talked about this on the Yoda episode that you just mentioned, and it's that, Yoda was surrounded by like a council that had become complacent and was just there for the buffet. I've got to steal Adam's quote there with something like that anyway. But, that's the thing is I think that Mace doesn't want to deal with any of this, and that's why he has the attitude about it, because it's like, you're talking about theories. At first you tell me the Sith are back, who haven't been seen in the millennia, and now and then in the same instance, you're telling me that you found this boy who you believe is a virgin in the Force, and it's like you can, fool me once, but come on, and you're feeding me two really huge piles of stinkiness here, and you expect me to believe one. Maybe if you would have come to me with one of these scenarios, maybe I'd buy it now, but now you're coming at me with both of these. It's like, this is a lot to take on. And, we got this, this border dispute and everything else that's in the backdrop of, what's going on with Naboo. And that seems to be the Jedi's focus at this point. And Qui-Gon is diverting this. And obviously, Mace is annoyed by that. But I think that it is that complacency because the Jedi haven't been, we don't
tested.
Get the idea that, they've had these kinds of things come to their attention for a very long time. It's just been, let's send Obi-Wan to a border dispute on Ancion. Let's do this, that. It's peacekeeping. It's political games. But now we're talking about big, huge Force stuff, ideas of chosen ones and the Sith returning. This is something that this group of Jedi probably has absolutely no experience with dealing with. And now you lay both of those big, huge bombshells on them, and they're just like, got to be
let me ask you this.
I'm talking as the council as a whole, but Mace as well.
Yeah. Well, is Mace and the council more analytical and I want to say, in air quotes here, modern, and where Yoda's still clinging to the spiritual in a sense, like he's more open to it?
He's going to like be old school, and everybody else is going to be like the millennials, they're like the new breed, and they're like, hey, like, I mean, this version of the Jedi Council would be the Jedi Council that's on, I guess that they would be on MySpace back then when these movies came out, but they're at the beginning of the social. Now Luke's new Jedi, they'd be on Instagram and Twitter and all this stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's a new age, and it's been so long since they've been confronted with probably a real challenge that the idea of, and this idea of Qui-Gon, bringing balance to the Force, and they're probably like, why do we need balance brought to the Force right now? Like, what's going on that's so bad? Of course, it gets bad, but at that point, it was just probably normal, everyday political stuff. So,
well, my big question is, when he references, you mean the one that'll bring balance to the Force or destroy the Sith or whatever he says there. It's like, well, yeah, we just had a Sith kind of drop on our lap here, and, things are happening. So I don't think that, like you said, they couldn't handle those big questions, which is why Anakin became taken to be trained as a Jedi, because they didn't know how to handle the situation.
So they didn't take both at the same time. Then when they realize, hey, this Darth Maul guy's real, there's somebody else out there pulling the strings probably, or who, there's got to be two. So one's still out there. So this wasn't a coincidence. This Anakin kid seems to be powerful in the Force. We know it. So
better us to have it than the other.
And it's just like, okay, well, this version of the council is smart enough to realize, okay, and Mace has to be smart enough to realize, okay, look, this is not a coincidence that the Sith return and then this kid shows up. So, we may as well keep him around and see where it goes because, exactly. It's better us to keep an eye on him, to let him loose, and then who knows what's going to happen.
Exactly. All right. So in episode 2, I mean, it's pretty obvious when we see in the beginning where they meet the Chancellor, they're going in there. He's really doing more of the talking than, say, Yoda. Like, I mean, well, although the Chancellor does ask him, Master Yoda, do you think it'll come to war? And he's, clouded and everything. But Mace seems to, step up quite a bit here. Like, it's him and Codamunde. That's how I say his name. It's probably wrong because I say every name wrong, apparently. I can't even say Praetorian Guards, too. So, it's obvious that. And then, of course, he gets...
Kiadi Mundi. Is that how you said it?
Yeah, well...
Pretty much the same.
Yeah. About the same. Yeah, it's in the ballpark. You guys know who I'm talking about. But he says, and this is a bit of his mindset, again, not adapting with the times and not even thinking things, is where, she mentions Count Dooku or whatever, and he's like, oh, he was once a Jedi. He can't, this thing. Like, what are you talking about, man? I mean, do you not know your history? I mean, not that it really mattered, that with Revan and all that other stuff, but, I mean... You can't be that ignorant. If I got to imagine that Count Dooku's spouting off all this political ideal stuff and all this other stuff, kind of paying attention.
Doesn't Mace have to believe that? Yeah. We just, at the beginning of this, we were talking about him, kind of, he's that in between. He's that tweener Jedi, like where he's using the dark side. And he says Count Dooku used to be a Jedi. He couldn't do that. It's not in his character. It doesn't Mace have to believe that because look at it from his perspective. He has to believe that, look, this is who I am. And yes, I have these feelings and maybe I can, I have an attitude sometimes or I get aggressive, but when push comes to shove, I wouldn't turn bad. I'd make the right decision because, at heart, I am a Jedi. I was a Jedi. And that's what my character is. That's who I am. And I'm not going to, step over that line, which will lead into the kind of near the end of our discussion here. And does he step over that line? But I'll just leave it at that for there. But I think Mace has to, when he defends Count Dooku there, I think he's almost kind of defending maybe a little way himself as well.
Or maybe just the Jedi himself. Because it is really, if they're all Jedi, and one, like he said, well, I'm leaving the Jedi Order. Count Dooku leaves the Jedi Order. I mean, that's kind of shocking because you're all brothers and sisters and, you all have this thing together where you're grouped together and then one of you leaves and then starts spouting off all this, I want to say hate speech or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what you would call it in the galaxy far, far away, but he's spouting off all this stuff and you would say, all right, well, something's not right there, but he is a Jedi at heart and so am I, and it's a reflection on me if he kind of turns and everything, and he can't do that. No way can he do. And I'm the more likely one that would turn, and I'm so balanced and I'm ready to go. No way he could turn. But I question his judgment here with a lot of things, to be honest. Mace makes a lot of, I guess, blunders due to his temperament, I guess you could say. But we'll move on to more. What else you got to say about Mace at this point in episode 2? Yeah, go ahead.
Here's the thing. I mean, obviously in episode 1, Anakin kind of, I think, is it Mace he gives the dirty look to, or is it Yoda? He kind of gives all of them that dirty look, and Mace doesn't want anything to do with him. And then when we come into episode 2 here, as far as the Mace and Anakin relationship, it's not quite as hostile as it will get in episode 3. They've kind of cooled it off. And I think that's probably a story method because they want Anakin to be mad at Obi-Wan. And so I think George was thinking there, okay, Anakin needs to be mad at Obi-Wan and kind of feeling frustrated with Obi-Wan. And so that's where we don't really see that Mace Windu conflict because it's like, okay, I don't want anything to interfere with that idea. So I think, think by the time 3 comes around, then they're best friends again. And so then, then that's when those tensions get high. But, Mace does make the comment. He's like, remember, Obi-Wan, if your Padawan is the chosen one, he'll bring balance to the Force or whatever.
That was always insulting, though.
But it's, everybody's always had this theory and it's come up in the Discord and you brought it up before, Mike. Is he jealous of the attention Anakin gets or that potential that okay, this guy comes in, he's the new hot shot. And Mace is like, hey, he's like, I've worked my butt off for, how many years, and I've been here forever. I'm basically second on the council, and you got this Padawan who everybody's clinging the hope of the galaxy to. And he, I don't know. I mean, is there jealousy there? I'm not sure. I mean, he's supposed to be a Jedi. He shouldn't be feeling those things, but is there resentment there? And not just with Mace, but maybe with all of the council in a way.
I see it as he's looking at it like you just said. I'm number 2 on the council. He's relatively young for someone on the council. And then you got this hotshot Anakin who can do just about everything. He's skilled in everything. Great pilot, great swordsman. All these things. And Mace is like, well, wait a minute. I'm going to be the Jedi, head Grand Master at some point when Yoda kicks off here. And now we got this young guy that's coming about. I mean, whoa, wait a minute. Don't be stealing my thunder, because before you arrived, I was doing some pretty amazing things. And to get into this here with Obi-Wan, when he gets dispatched for the thing, and I'll just throw this here, he's like, Obi-Wan struggled with Jango Fett. Mace kind of just takes care of him very easily. Like, where if you're on the council, all right, Obi-Wan's good and all, but he's not on Mace's level as far as skill and all that other stuff. So it's almost like, all right, well, I don't have anyone that's really going to rival me on the council. Maybe that's Mace's thinking. It's hard to say, because there are parts when we get into the Clone Wars, and I'll mention a little bit. We won't get into too much with the Clone Wars, but where Mace seems like a really nice, sweet guy. And then there's other moments where he gets that chip on the shoulder kind of guy, which is, I think, his overall aspect is he's the guy with a chip on his shoulder. And it serves him well, because I think he does find that balance. He uses, to be honest, I'll just throw it in here, Joe. This question out to you right now is, should he have been Anakin's master? Because he's the one who was able to control these, this anger and this chip on the shoulder and this, all these other things, and overcome those.
Driven Anakin to Palpatine even faster.
If he didn't have the hostility towards Anakin in the beginning,
and then we see that hostility continuing through. You're saying should he be? But there is that hostility. Now, if you're going to ask me the question, if he just treated him just like Obi-Wan, well, then it's like, why didn't then Obi-Wan should just train him. So it's like, that's who Mace is. That's in his, I guess I would just say that's in his DNA, and he's never going to give Anakin that fair shake, or that, even in episode, he's like, don't get involved, wait there, don't go, just stay there. And then Padme's got to be the one that, and Anakin's like, well, Master Windu said, and then Padme's like, well, I'm going to help Obi-Wan. If you're going to protect me, come along. So, I mean, even then Mace is kind of still, quit breaking the rules, like, I just think of that Jim Carrey line in Liar, Liar, quit breaking the law, bleep. But yeah, I just, that's where I'm going with Mace is I as far as the theoretical training of Anakin, obviously I think Qui-Gon is going to be the one that, if he would have lived, that's the person that you would have wanted to train Anakin, because I think that he would have nurtured that path of the Force and chosen one, and he would have really let Anakin, maybe it would have put a lot of pressure on Anakin, but he already had that pressure anyway, because he already knew about it. So maybe Qui-Gon could have helped him through that more. No, I don't think Mace would have been a good master at all. I mean, maybe somebody else can make a good argument for why he would have been, but based on their personalities and their differences with each other, man, that would have been they might have just dueled each other and way before episode 3.
Well, my other question is he like the Saw Gerrera of the Jedi, where he's kind of, I don't want to say paranoid, but where he's suspicious of everything? Because then I'll even go into the Obi-Wan and Anakin comic where, the Emperor kind of goes and watches Anakin training. He kind of bamboozles Mace in a way, too. Like, how does Mace not pick up on these things? Because he's very suspicious as we go on down the line here, why he wouldn't be onto all these things. Like, well, I'm surprised none of them were really onto it. I mean, how could you not? I mean, granted, we're the audience and we're clued into things that they're not, but, I don't know. What do you think about him getting not just, the Jedi, obviously, but even Mace? Because Mace seems very suspicious of everyone, like he was with Anakin, this outsider, and Chancellor Palpatine. He's kind of an outsider and meddling with Jedi affairs, as he's kind of said before as we go forward. But what do you think? Why didn't he piece it together? Or maybe he did. He just couldn't really.
I think he had an idea, but it's like he just can't blurt out that the Chancellor is a Sith Lord. But I mean, when Anakin reveals that to him, he says, then our worst fears have been realized. So, I think by that line, you would think like him and Yoda or maybe some council members have had, the suspicion that either Palpatine is being influenced by a Sith Lord, which I believe is in the novelization that they believe that's actually said that they believe that the Sith Lord is in control of Palpatine, somehow manipulating him or pulling his strings or maybe brainwashing him or something. But that's their fear, or that he's just the Sith Lord himself, because he literally says, then our worst fears have been realized. So I think that discussion has been had before, and it was like, it's like a theory, it's like all these theories we come up with, and it's like and they might have had 1,000 of them just like we do, and that was just one of them, and then that one happened to be, and then you'd be like, hey, see, I was right, but I was wrong about the other 999.
See, Snoke really is Plagueis. No, but here's the thing, because Count Dooku tells Obi-Wan, well, the Sith is in control of the Senate. So I'm imagining Obi-Wan, Mace, and Yoda, and they had that discussion before, and I'm going to bring that up here, where they're walking in the corridor and they've had this discussion probably about the Sith. But then we'll get into Obi-Wan and Yoda here talking, where Yoda kind of maybe gives a slap to Mace a little bit, more arrogant. The older ones are a little more arrogant and stuff, think they know it all, so to speak. What do you think of that? Do you think that was a shot at Mace?
Mace or Obi-Wan? I don't know, or both of them. I don't know.
Well, could have been. I thought it was more to Mace, because then the camera goes to Mace and he's got that look in his eye like, yeah, shut up, you old green guy. That type of thing. But is it true? Let me ask you this. Is Mace arrogant? Or is he just,
I think he does. I think he does have some, a swagger about him anyway. I don't know if you want to go to an arrogance, but I think he's definitely pretty confident. Arrogance is a strong word, but, yeah, I would think so. We just don't see enough of him for me to tag him with maybe that word.
Or is he just confident?
But I think if I had to guess, if we got to see more, especially, maybe I'm projecting some of that Samuel L. Jackson and onto him even more so, in the kind of the other roles we've seen him play. And if we got to see more of him on screen, I definitely think it would probably go into that arrogant range.
Yeah, and then of course in the Clone Wars we don't get a lot of him. I mean, he did a mission with Jar Jar there, and he seemed very patient. But the movie, it's almost like that Dooku thing. Like when you make Dooku seem very evil in the Clone Wars, but in the movies he seems sympathetic, and like maybe he was planning to just take over and do a new world order, as I always say, with Dooku's world order there, where he changes everything and makes it the way he wanted it to be, so to speak. But I think he's more confident than anything else, and maybe not as arrogant, but he's very sure of himself, because then when we get into episode 3, and we might as well get into that now, it's kind of his downfall. But what else? What do you get to say on episode 3 on Mace?
Well, obviously, like I said before, this is where the tensions really get high between him and Anakin. And, when the council decide, Palpatine goes to Anakin and says, I want you to be my personal representative on the Jedi Council. And Anakin automatically takes this as, I'm going to be a master. So the Jedi allow it because, okay, we'll do it to appease Palpatine, but
and to spy.
Yeah, because we're going to spy and this and this and that. But we're not going to grant him the rank of master, but we have to tell him that. Who's going to tell him that? I think Mace was more than glad to be the one who said, I think he's the one that he raised his hand and said, I'll tell him that he's not going to be a master. I'd be more than glad to inform this kid that he is not the youngest Jedi master in the history of the Jedi.
Is that because he was?
And that was don't break my record.
No, is that one of those things like that's like Michael Jordan would do that? Like Michael Jordan would probably do that. I probably would do that. But
Michael Jordan would do that. Michael Jordan would have just punched Anakin in the face, actually. But
he would have threw him right out the window. But Yeah, I sensed that it was like you could tell, like he was waiting for this moment since the Phantom Menace to slap Anakin. Like
Michael Jordan in Star Wars, just like Michael Jordan would be the chosen one if he was in Star Wars. But anyway, sorry, I'm going crazy.
Michael Jordan could have been the Mace Windu of the Jedi Council, because
Michael Jordan was a bit of an a-hole, and I say that with all love in my heart, because I loved Michael Jordan when I was a kid, and I still love the way he played basketball. But he was,
he was the best.
He was an a-hole though. At the same time, and Kobe was too. I mean, they were grade A buttholes, and maybe that's what made, tying it back to Mace, maybe that's what made him good, because he was that suspicious kind of, I'll be mean if I have to. I'll use my aggression, which is what, Michael and Kobe, that's what made them great, is using that aggression. Maybe that's what made Mace great. That's actually not a bad analogy, I don't think, anyway, is because sometimes just being super aggressive, that's what can make you great or make great things happen. The people who are like super rich, they're super aggressive people, and sometimes they fail, but when they succeed, man, they're billionaire then, you know what I mean? So, I mean, it's all about being super, super aggressive and taking chances. So I guess maybe you could put that on Mace a little bit, and look where he got. I mean, he was, right up there on the Jedi Council. So it's not like he didn't kind of move up in the world, I guess you could say.
No, but I think he definitely was the chip on the shoulder kind of guy. I think you could say that clearly. I think he was, but I just want to go back into.
Well, I mean, this is, Mace Windu here is the picture of what Anakin despises about the Jedi Order at this point. Mace Windu is the poster boy for what Anakin is frustrated with. He doesn't, they're not making me a master. They don't treat me with respect. They're hiding things from me. They don't even tell me in the council meeting I'm supposed to be spying. It's Obi-Wan who has to gently try to ease him into that. And so, but Mace is the one who comes off glaringly as the bad guy to Anakin. And that's why Anakin thinks, well, he can say things like, well, the Jedi are evil, or they're not telling me this. I know there are things about the Force they're not telling me. Mace Windu is supposed to be the poster boy for all of Anakin's aggression towards the Jedi Order, and he becomes the face of that for Anakin, and really, I guess, for the audience, because I'm sitting here saying it, and I am the audience.
Is Mace the catalyst to all this? I would imagine if he's the poster boy, he's got to be the catalyst of it all.
He's the one we see. Now, I think the entire Jedi Council, maybe besides Yoda always seemed to be kind with Anakin, and he could always feel his pain. We talked about this again in that Yoda discussion back in February. But I think Yoda's the one who kind of was that old school and could feel for Anakin's feelings, and Obi-Wan as well, obviously. I think the rest of them were like, hey, we need to watch out here. And Mace was the one who would raise his hand and say, I'll do it. I'll tell him. I'll be the jerk to him. I have no problem doing that. And I think that's where it came from, but I don't think it's all Mace. I think it was other Jedi.
He's just a representation.
I think he's the head juror, basically, if you will.
Yeah, I would say. Well, I just want to jump back to, we kind of have an interesting moment with Yoda in where he's talking about Anakin when, Anakin, Skywalker's in pain, blah, 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 that whole thing. And Mace is there and he's got that look of concern. Does this kind of reassure his suspicions of maybe Anakin being in league with the Sith, or, maybe not in the league with the Sith, but all those other things, that type of stuff. And of course, when they're talking in the council, where they're around the table and they're talking about what they got to do, and Yoda says, well, to a grave, to a dark place this is going to bring us and stuff, and Anakin kind of leaves, and he's given that look like, say this stuff after the fact. And I'll just point out that the council, Mace, Obi-Wan, and Yoda in the Dark Disciple novel set out, what's his face there, Quinlan Vos, on this mission to, do these dark things. And this is where the Jedi Council was going. So this is even more ammunition for Anakin in my mind, where he can see, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. And he's kind of right. he's really not that wrong when you think about it. But what are your thoughts on all that?
Well, we've talked about the Ahsoka thing too, where, I mean, as far as the Anakin thing, because that's, Ahsoka leaving and that pissed him off too. But anyway, we're not talking about Anakin necessarily. So obviously it's about Mace. But yeah, I mean, I think that, I don't think he understands people like Yoda. We always used to joke that Yoda was an animal and he didn't get the human emotions. And we were always joking when we would say things like that. I don't think we ever really believe that, or at least not to the degree that we made it sound that Yoda doesn't understand human emotions. I think he does. I think he does more than most do.
Mace.
And I think Mace is just very rigid and hard. Mace is Yoda's he's
the soft cop, good cop, and he's the bad cop.
Mace is the drill instructor, really, isn't he? I guess he just has that about him. So, yeah.
Well, I hope someone draws a picture of good cop, bad cop of Yoda and Mace, and like maybe in Law and Order, like there'll be a Law and Order picture, But anyway, enough of that silliness.
In the Clone Wars, do the Joker thing. Was this good cop, bad cop? And then Mace Windu, not exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Stand behind, Anakin. But, we'll get into, I know there was stuff in the Clone Wars, but we can't cover everything within an hour of episode. And of course, like I mentioned in Dark Disciple, there was a little bit there with the Jedi Council stuff, but Mace is mostly at the Jedi Temple and the Jedi Council. And yeah, he's seen some action on Geonosis, and, he went out and showed that he's a general. He's a good field commander. He takes charge of things, and, of course, he dispatched with Jango, this party's over, took command of it. Like, he just went in there and said, yeah, we're going to win. Like, he's very overconfident, which comes into this now with Mace versus the Emperor and with his Jedi pals, where things didn't go so well with Kit Fisto and, all those other Jedi there that happened to die in, with mere seconds. But Mace was the only one that could hold him off because of that style that he has, I assume. And Mace is that close, I guess, because he's close to the dark side, or not close to it. Like, he's got that balance where he can counter those dark side moves, I guess you could say. I don't know. I'll throw it to you, Joe. What did you think of the Emperor just dispatching those clones, those Jedi, and then just taking on Mace? Because in my mind, yeah, I know. Yeah, well, that's an argument for another day with Palpatine and all that. But go ahead, continue.
I mean, obviously we see the fight there, but the thing I want to focus on here is that Mace gets him down and he's got him. Anakin shows up. He tries to reason, let's bring him before the Senate. Let's put him on trial. And this is where I was talking about, where Mace has that dart, and he's always able to hold it off. And then he says, I'll always make the right decision because I'm a Jedi. I'm
the judge, jury, and executioner.
That's what he turns into, though. But that's not what a Jedi is, and that's not what he said a Jedi was. He said Count Dooku couldn't do this because Count Dooku was once a Jedi, and it's not in his character. And because it's not in a Jedi's character, it's not in my character. But when it comes down to it, he's like, I'm not going to let this cancer come over the galaxy. And he takes into his own hands, maybe pun intended there. He tries to take into his own hand that he loses. But no, he tries to strike him down and says, I'm not going to go through the legal process. I'm not doing the Jedi way. I'm not doing the political way.
He's too dangerous.
I'm just going to kill him. I'm not saying Mace was wrong. I'm not saying that this was the wrong decision. I'm saying it was not. It was not a Jedi decision. It wasn't the Jedi way. Anakin was right. It wasn't the Jedi way to chop up a defenseless person now, or an unarmed person, I should say, because he wasn't defenseless, obviously, because we saw what happens next with the Force lightning. But he decides to take matters into his own hands and end it himself. And I'm going to be the hero. I'm going to defeat the Sith. I'm bringing balance to the Force, not Anakin. And I'm not sure that was in his line of thinking, but
no, I think he wanted to do what was right. And it's funny because,
but to a degree, in my mind, that those dark and aggressive feelings finally took over, and he wasn't able to control them anymore. there wasn't a balance. It was like, I'm going to murder you in cold blood for the greater good of the galaxy.
Well, and it's funny because years later, Anakin makes that call and does what needed to be done. Of course, he was a Sith at the time when he did it, so I guess technically he's in the clear. I guess I don't know what you would go with that. So in any case, it's just interesting that it mirrors each other. It's ring theory stuff going on there and stuff like that. But well, let's get into. We kind of mentioned the tensions are high, obviously, and he actually gains Anakin's trust here, only to lose it again when he comes back to this meeting and he sees him and he's like, "Oh, hold on, Anakin, hold on, I got this here." And Anakin, and again, Mace, as arrogant as he may be, Joao, and all that other stuff, he seems more right than wrong when it comes to the decisions.
I think that's the
this
thing.
boy should be trained.
This whole episode's going to feel like it's a big crapping on Mace Windu.
It's like Obi-Wan.
Like we just crapped on Obi-Wan the whole episode, but it's like, oh, we really do like him, trust us, but we don't have anything good at all to say about him. But yeah, I feel like that we've kind of crapped on Mace, but I think at the same time, I feel like he was kind of supposed to be that antagonist within the Jedi, because we do see it from Anakin's point of view. That's the way the movie is made to be watched, is what's going on with Anakin, and these are his feelings are the ones we know the innermost feelings of. We don't know Mace Windu's really innermost feelings. They don't discuss that in the movie. They discuss Anakin's. And I think that's, as far as Mace Windu goes, he's supposed to be as far as the Jedi go, he's that antagonist plot point for Anakin, especially in episode 3. It's not Obi-Wan. It becomes Obi-Wan at the end because it's like, I got to get rid of you. Sorry, man.
Well, Mace is the one that gets to that point.
Mace is the one that's driving that I don't trust the Jedi Order. It's that idea. Mace is the poster boy, as I said. So Mace is actually, if you consider Anakin the antagonist for at least half of episode 3, like Mace Windu is actually kind of an antagonist in the movie. I've never thought of it that way until now. But I mean, I know Palpatine's the bad guy. He's the antagonist, but our protagonist actually becomes the antagonist and becomes a bad guy and goes with the other bad guy based on the antagonist who really is supposed to be the lines are so blurred. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing to think about because it might just make your brain explode.
Well, again, I think as we were saying, we may have poo-pooed on Mace here, but I think he was right in the end. Like, yeah, I'm going to kill this guy, and he knew to keep Anakin away from Plagueis. Not Plagueis.
He's a butthole.
Palpatine.
Mace is a butthole.
Yeah.
And he's got an attitude, but it doesn't make him wrong or a bad person. Let me just say that.
And I just wanted to make that point, is he is actually right, and he should have taken out Sidious, and he was right to keep Anakin away from him, and he was kind of right maybe he wasn't right to make him a master, so to speak, on the Jedi Council, but he was right about, not wanting Anakin to be trained because he knew it was dangerous. It was clouded. It wasn't sentence. It was just bad stuff, but in one way, the Council probably outweighed him and Yoda in the fact that, all right, if we don't have them, it's like nuclear weapons. We should have them. They shouldn't have them. So we better have them and keep an eye on them. So someone, you know what I mean? Like that. Maybe that's a bad analogy, but we need to keep this weapon because if it gets in the hands of someone that's evil, I mean, we're not going to be able to stop it. And then it's a big problem. And a lot of people die and get hurt and everything else. So we might as well keep him close to us, which we said at the beginning of the show. But I think overall, he's a jerk, but he's right. I don't think he's a jerk. I think he's set in his ways and he's a bit arrogant and he's just, he's highly confident because he's very skilled and he's very knowledgeable. He's, that's the way I come down on Mace. I don't have a problem with Mace, but, let's get into his awesome death, Joao, and the rumors that swirl around his death and all that stuff. So what do you think of his death? I think he's dead. Oh, yeah. We've had Maul come back and as a spider Maul and all that other stuff.
Had less done to him than Maul did. So, I guess you could make the argument that he could come back. They could, right? But it's like, it wasn't a good idea. It wasn't a plausible idea to bring Darth Maul back to life. So just because Mace's was less of a horrific death in that way doesn't make it, Like,
we shouldn't
making
do
it
this.
more plausible. Like, we still shouldn't do it.
Well, I mean, we got Samuel L. Jackson wanting it, and of course George said, and he went across.
Oh yeah,
he went
Sam
against,
Jackson. He's like, hey, this would be my 4th Star Wars movie. You know what kind of paycheck that would draw? The way the billing goes now, with the way they do their tiers of
the
legacy actors of Star Wars. The more movies you're in, the more money you make. Yeah, he wants a payday. Of course, he wants Mace Windu to come back.
Well, I want him to come back, but I think.
Well, some people think he will. Some people think he's Snoke.
Yeah. Some people think he's art.
I guess it's. And I don't want this to come off the wrong way, but it just I sent that to you the other night because people have brought up to us that, like, why do you hate? They asked you, Mike. They said, why do you hate the Snoke or Mace Windu as Snoke theories? And I was like, oh Lord. But so I don't know if you really hate it or not. That's a strong word, but it just reminds me of the Ernie Hudson line in Ghostbusters where he said, I've seen S that'll turn you white. So maybe that's the only explanation. Maybe Mace Windu saw a ghost and he became Snoke because that's the only explanation I got.
Well, we'll get into Snoke but anyway. I think for me, I don't like it because I think from a story standpoint and the ring theory standpoint, that moment where Anakin turns back, Mace plays into that now because he sees what happened before when he was there. You know, there's that video on YouTube where he's playing back all the things in his head before he saves Luke and everything. And that's one of the scenes that shows up where, you know, he sees that and then he does know and he picks him up and throws him. And to me, in a way, Mace kind of pulls Anakin back in a way. I mean, you could look at it that way. It just poetically and, you know, ring theory wise, I don't want him to come back. I think it's best to leave it the way it is.
He had a decision to make with Mace and he made the wrong decision. And it's a really poetic scene when we put that together in our head where he turned to the dark side when Palpatine basically was shooting Force lightning at somebody. And it's reversed because he chopped Mace's hand off and then his hand his robotic hand gets chopped off as my little Star Wars figure goes collapsing to the ground. So it's really very mirrored images and then parallels going all over the place with him turning to the dark side, chopping Mace's hand off and then coming back to the light with his own robotic hand being chopped off by his son and then throwing him in. So yeah, Mace has a part to play in that poem, if you will.
And that's where I'll leave it at that. So with that, Joe, I think we're going to be done with Mace unless you have anything else to add, and then we'll just wrap it up here.
No, I'm good with Mace. We hit on some topics. I'm sure some people will bring up some stuff and say, I wish you would have talked about this or that. We kind of get that from time to time, but you know, it is what it is with Mace. You know, I mean, I'm sure we'll bring him back up from time to time with a topic here or there.
Especially the Jedi Council. We'll get to that at some point.
I just want to tell the listeners, I've had people keep asking for Darth Maul, and I don't mean to sound exasperated when I say that, but they've been asking for him. Guys, we're going to get Darth Maul. We're going to get him. He's probably coming in like September. We have so much content on the plate, but September's looking pretty open right now. So, you know, we got a couple guests coming on. We got Adam coming back to the show, doing a psychology episode and maybe bringing another psychologist on. We'll see how that works out. You know, guys, we got a big Snoke, Kylo Ren relationship, thing coming on. We got Kate McCourt coming on next week. Hopefully, if everything goes according to plan, she'll be the next episode you hear. And, you know, I got a couple other things planned, some really great topics. Darth Maul, we are going to get there. So it's probably looking like sometime in September, guys. I promise we will break him down as best as we can. And I've also had several people that say Darth Bane. I've had multiple people tell me they want us to do Darth Bane. I want to combine it into a Darth Bane / Rule of Two Sith episode. So, because I think that would be better content and we could go longer on it. So I think that's the direction we're going to go. Those 2 episodes will be coming probably this year. Definitely Darth Maul this year and Bane at some point. So just wanted to let listeners know that.
Well, we might have to study up on Bane. I might have to read those old books and and study up on it a little bit. But I guess that's it for this week, and we'll catch you guys next week, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Take care, everyone.
Leave us an iTunes review.
You're still listening? Wow. That's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property, and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.